they think, oh yeah, immigrant is this or that, and then they're like, oh, Justin, you're not from here? What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I knew something was different about you. You know, it's always like that little thing, like, oh, okay, it makes a little sense.
Makes sense now.
Yeah, so.
I moved to the United States with my whole family from Ethiopia at the age of 14. And one of my favorite conversations to have with my fellow immigrants is their story of coming to America. I love talking about their expectations of America, what surprised them the most, what disappointed them the most, what was the reality they faced once they moved here. I had this conversation with 3 immigrants: a DACA recipient originally from Colombia now working for Amazon, a businessman originally from Barbados, and finally, a diversity visa lottery winner originally from Somalia by the name of Abdi. I learned about Abdi in an episode of This American Life years ago, and I immediately identified with his immigrant story. So, how long have you been here now?
A little over 4 years. 4 years and 3 months, I think.
I always say the first year is the hardest one, like to get adjusted. I think for most people it takes about a year to adjust to things, and then after that, you're into the system after a year.
You know, the first year for me, the most difficult thing was understanding people. Because, you know, in America, they don't speak English the way they speak on the movies, right?
How so? Explain that.
Yeah, it is. And the day-to-day conversation had been extremely difficult. What I mean by that is, you know, they talk about different types of things that, and I was someone who had no idea what a mowing a lawn meant, you know? So it was sort of learning, you know, new things, new words every day and new experiences.
My name is Abdi Iftin. I came to the United States in 2014, August 11. I came through the diversity visa lottery program, and I was a refugee in Kenya before I moved to the US through the diversity lottery program. And then before that, I was in Somalia as a locally displaced person. But coming to America was just a dream come true.
So the story about how I came to America is not that different from a lot of immigrants in the United States. I did not cross the border. I came on a plane, like the majority of immigrants in the United States, with my whole family. It was about almost 13 years ago. We landed in Florida. We just, you know, my parents just wanted a better future for me and my older brother.
My name is Justin Rayside. I'm originally from Barbados. I was born in Barbados, moved out to here to the States when I was younger, like 8 years old.
I remember driving to Orange County from LAX, and the freeways were just so massive. I thought I was in some futuristic land. I had never seen anything like that. The freeway system was so impressive and so huge, so complex.
What I tell people in the United States is that people outside the United States, we see America. We see your Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and your Martin and your Housewife of and your cooking shows and your talk shows and your opera. Like we see you guys, and that's what we learned that United States is. I thought that high school was gonna be like High School Musical. I felt like I was gonna come to that movie, and it wasn't like that at all.
Well, before I came to America, I knew America through the movies and television and the image that I saw and the songs that America introduced to us and Hollywood. But coming to America was completely different. I thought that every mile in the US, you know, there's a skyscraper. I thought that people walk up and down the street everywhere. I thought that America was just like Los Angeles or New York. And honestly, coming to Maine, I felt like I was in another world. I was in a completely different place.
I used to have like a strong accent, so people was like, well, what are you? You know, like, where you from? And I was like, I didn't know like that things were different.
I think that every American swears, but I realized that that's not true. I learned English from movies, and I thought that's what Americans do. And those are the first words that I had learned. I was surprised that it's sort of not really appropriate to swear around some people.
The funniest thing that I found myself in was when I came here. I didn't know the difference between congested and constipated. I didn't know the difference between both. They sound the same. So I think I spent mostly like 1 year, 1.5 years just saying I'm constipated when I actually was just congested, and nobody corrected me. Anytime that somebody was like, oh, I'm sick, I'm like, oh, you're constipated? And they're like, no, I'm just sick. I'm like, that's why, you're constipated. Nobody corrected me.
One of the first things that caught me off guard about America was the concept of buying drinking water. So my sister, who's been living here before I arrived, I think it was my first week or second week here, she had these 5-gallon jugs and she said, okay, let's go get drinking water. And I remember thinking, what? You have to buy drinking water in America? Why can't you just drink the tap water? And I thought that was so backwards for such an advanced country to have to go buy drinking water at the water store. Because back home we just drink the tap water and it's fine. And later on it was explained to me that yeah, it is safe to drink the tap water, but a lot of people just don't like the taste of it.
When I was new, one thing that I regret and still makes me laugh is how I underestimated how cold it could be in Maine. And I thought I could beat the winter, and I was excited for it when it snowed. And then I remember not being able to get outside. I told everyone that I don't even need to bundle up. I don't need to get coats because whatever cold it is, I could go out and do something. And then I realized that I couldn't feel my fingers. I couldn't feel my toes. I couldn't feel my nose, and it's been freezing cold. I have never experienced such a thing, never in my entire life. And another point, one day when I couldn't distinguish cat food from human food. And I understand it totally because I grew up in an environment where you don't buy cat food at all. The canned cat food that I had seen here sort of looks like what we ate back in Kenya or in Somalia, but it comes in a sort of like fish can, and it seemed the same thing. And that was also another stupid mistake that I had made.
When you're DACA, you sort of live in a limbo. You live in rented time. It's like having a rent for the United States, and every 2 years you have to renew your lease. Because every 2 years you have to apply again and show them that you have paid your taxes, that you don't have any delinquency, any misdemeanors, any felony. You have to go through your fingerprints. It's like being rented time in America. And every time that you go to release, to renew your lease, you have to prove that you're worth renewing it, regardless of the fact that I put more into United States economy more than the average American, because I don't receive governmental help. I don't get Section 8 housing, I don't get food stamps, I don't get Medicare, I don't get none of that stuff, but I pay my taxes.
I think a lot of foreigners, a lot of immigrants also struggle with loneliness when they come here, unfortunately. I mostly, I guess, speak for other Ethiopians like myself that come here, especially if they were older when they got here and have had full lives, like they went to school, they had work and a bustling social life, and they come here and they have to possibly work 1-2 jobs, some 3 jobs to make ends meet, send money back home. So they encounter a very, very difficult work life, and also there's not that social life they're used to. Going over to somebody's house at a moment's notice, meeting up cafes every day after work. You don't have that here, so they struggle with that, and that's definitely something I warn others about when they first come here. Not in a bad way, but just for them to be mentally prepared. So what does it mean to be a Black immigrant to you? Do you feel like you're an immigrant since you came at a young age?
I do feel like an immigrant, and I don't, because I've been here long enough to like know and blend in or whatever. But I mean, I had a green card all my life. I literally 2 years ago got my citizenship here.
Oh,
so
really?
you know, I've always had that shadow of immigrant status over me.
I come from a culture where we identify ourselves by our tribes or by the country of origin. But coming to the United States, I had something that happened quickly was that I had to be identified with my color, the skin color. So not only being Black or immigrant American, but also it's sort of frightening to think of who I am today. For example, I'm a Somali, I'm a Muslim, an immigrant, I'm a refugee, diversity lottery winner, I'm a person of color. So these are the things that sort of seem scary today when you look at the news that's out there and the government that we have today that's sort of put Somalia under one of the 7 countries to be banned from entering into the United States.
I tell people all the time that I learned that I was Latina in the United States, but I've always been Black. And it was a very shocking experience to see that I was also Black in the United States. That was probably the most surprising part, because growing up in Colombia, I grew up in a society that was very white. And so I lived through racism there and prejudge. And I was very young, you know, like the only thing that we saw in Colombia from people of color was they were the maids, or whenever they do like a movie from slaves, they were the slaves. But then, you know, coming here, because I learned from, you know, Will Smith and the movies and hip hop, like I thought it was gonna be different and more acceptable to be Black. And then I actually came here and I realized that you still have to pay a price for being another color want to come here. It is not like the movies.
Do you feel like there's a gap between African Americans and then Black immigrants?
Between like you know, an African American and a Black immigrant, there's a dissonance where it's kind of like the African American, if they don't know that you're a Black immigrant, or if they do, they'll look at you like, okay, what is this person about? You know, like, or you're trying to figure out if they're you, or if you guys share the same experiences. And most of the time we do. Like Black immigrants and African Americans, we relate to each other very well. I guess I'm a hybrid because I've been here and I'm not from here, so it's like...
So you're actually the perfect person that can connect both worlds.
Yeah.
Because you can get it from both perspectives. And then African Americans can relate to you without having that initial thought they would have about an immigrant. Because to you, you're like, oh, you're one of us.
Right. They think, oh yeah, immigrant is this or that, and then they're like, oh, Justin, you're not from here? What? That's crazy. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I knew something was different about you. You know, it's always like that little thing like, oh, okay, it makes a little sense.
Makes sense now.
Yeah. So, I mean, to keep it real, Barbados, West Indies, we was the first one off the ship. So like, we feel this, we share the same experiences.
Well, another expectations that a lot of immigrants have about America is that the streets are paved with gold, right? That's the old saying. Opportunities everywhere. And that's partly true and partly not true. You don't just get handouts when you come here. You don't just find gold on the streets, but there are a lot of opportunities that are hard to come by in a lot of other countries, and even developed countries. But you have to work for it. You have to work long hours. You have to work hard for it.
So what exceeded my expectations in the United States was that you still got the ability, regardless of the prejudice and the racism, you still have the opportunity to make something out of yourself. I would never have gotten as far as I got in life if I would not have come to the United States.
My dad, he's a stud. That's where I learned, my work ethic from, and now he's the brand ambassador for Rolls-Royce and Bentley and Rusnak. So he climbed his way up tenfold in the car industry from starting at Honda to being where he's at now. And he came at a late age, like 30, almost 30 years old. So to see that happen while I'm growing up here, it's like, all right, there's no excuse, because this man's getting up every morning, driving, then 2 hours in traffic to get to where he needs to work all day, to hustle and bring home the cake.
So is the American dream still alive for immigrants?
Very well. It's very well alive.
I wrote this book to tell the true immigrant story, to show and educate the world of who we are. And it's specifically a story of myself. It's a memoir. And I was called by my friends the nickname American when I was 10 years old, living in the world's most dangerous city, Mogadishu. And earning that name didn't come easy, because I became a movie translator. I fell in love with American Marines on the streets of Mogadishu, and Hollywood has made a movie out of this called Black Hawk Down, but I was right there, personally, experiencing this. But when I moved to the US and I found I was sort of relaxed and found a safe place to sit down, I thought it's an important thing, specifically at this time, because it's enlightening, but it's also timely, to tell our stories, because immigration, refugee, has been on the news lately.
Are there a lot of stereotypes towards Africans?
So this is both funny and not funny, because the stereotypes I encountered about Africans is in a question form. I've been asked before if we eat zebras, if we have seen lions roaming on the streets, I guess. I've been asked if I've been to Zamunda, which, by the way, is a fake country, doesn't exist. People assume we don't have normally built homes and everybody lives in huts. That's not the case. There's some that do, obviously. In the cities, we don't have that. No, I've never seen a zebra, I've never seen a lion, I've never seen an elephant, I've never seen a giraffe, a hyena. What did I miss out? Huh?
Until you got here.
Until I got here and went to San Diego Zoo, sadly enough. Oh my gosh. That's it. Thank you very much.